Welcome back to the 9th part of the Flutter YouTube Search tutorial course. In the previous part we've added new code to the data source and also to the repository, which allows us to fetch detailed data about a single video. Before we start writing the UI though, we need to create a block which we will use as the middle layer for communicating between widgets and the repository. This detail block will be similar to the search block, which we have already created, but the more you do something, the more you learn. Hello, welcome to ResoCoder, and let's start using this YouTube repository with a block. So first, to create a block, we need to create a new folder under UI. This folder will be called Detail. And then also let's add new classes under this detail folder. Thankfully, it turns out that BLoC now has even a VS Code extension. So just go to extensions and search for BLoC. And the first one that comes up, this BLoC, currently is on version 0.3.2, is an extension for VS Code right from the author Felix Angelov of the BLoC library. And if you use this extension, you can simply right click on any folder inside the hierarchy. So just right click, and all the way down there is BLoC, new block. So just press that. Give this block a counter. In our case, it will be detail. I hope I can write it with a lowercase, but we'll see. So just hit enter. And do you want to use equatable? No, we do not want to use not equatable, because we are using built value, although equatable library is pretty cool too. So no. Now it has successfully generated BLoC. So there is a new folder under detail called BLoC. We are actually going to move all of these packages to the root of the detail folder. But even then, it's really cool because we have generated the BLoC, event, and also state. So at least, even though it's written in a different way because we are using built value after all, so we need to change a few things, but at least we do not need to create these 3 files by hand. So that's pretty cool. And also we have what I call the export file, which exports everything, so that we can import only one file instead of 3 where we are using this block. So because we are doing things a bit differently, let's just copy, or actually select and move these 4 files over to detail. And we can now delete the now empty BLoC folder. So we are also going to rename this block.dart to just detail.dart. And what's up with that? We also need to fix imports. So we're gonna import detail. All right, or actually not. We're going to import only detail event and then only DetailState, because over in the detail.dart export file, there will be also exported the UI, so the page, and also some widgets which are associated with detail page. So we do not want to import UI widgets into BLoC. So that's why we are importing a detail event and DetailState separately here. And now let's move on to detail event, because we cannot do anything without events in BLoC, because events are the things which are passed into the block, and they will also pass some information alongside with them. So because we are using built value, we are going to leave this detail event as an abstract class. And I think you should be able to leave immutable here, because it's just that every single subclass of detail event needs to have only final fields. But I'm gonna actually remove this immutable because we didn't really need it before, so I don't think that we will need it now, because we are probably not gonna be doing something crazy with detail event. After all, built values have only getters. They don't even have real fields, because everything is just generated for us by the built value builder library. So we are now going to do a build, so BLT, simple build value. It will be called show detail. And yeah, it's going to have string get ID. Now what we are gonna do is to import the build value header, or actually use the snippet for build value header. It's gonna be called detail event. And we can remove all of the unused imports. So remove all of them. All right. And now we are going to open up the console and run Flutter packages, pub run, build runner, build, or actually watch, because we are also gonna build a state class, which is also build value. Awesome, we can see that the build finished successfully, so hopefully we are not gonna get any errors as we did before in the previous part. So now let's move on to DetailState.Dart, and here it's already done a bit differently, because you can also create states just like events, that for every single state you are not just going to do things as we are doing in Search State, for example, where we have only factories which only return the same type of state, Search State, but you can also do state with Dart in a way that you have subclasses and not factories. So you're actually returning different subclass for every state. Now we are returning the same class for every state, but we just call a different kind of factory. So for now, let's stick with the way we are already doing things. So we are going to return the same class even from DetailState and use factories and use the build value library as we have done with the searchState.Dart. So let's implement this DetailState, shall we? DetailState will itself be a build value class. So let's actually remove all of the code from here, even the package meta, and we're going to first import BLTH DetailState. And now what we want to do is to create BLT simple build value DetailState. And the fields which it will have are bool get is loading, then also video item, get video item. We obviously also need to import video item because it's from video item.dart. And then we also want to have string get error, so that we can know what went wrong and display a proper error message in the centered message widget. And let's also actually make this video item nullable, because while we are, for example, loading or there is a failure, we are not gonna have video items, so we will not be able to set the video item field to be null. Now let's do all of the factories. So we're gonna have factory DetailState dot initial, and this factory will simply return DetailState dot, or actually invoke the constructor, which is now private, so we can invoke it from within the DetailState.Dart. We're gonna be passed a builder as always, and on this builder we wanna set is loading to be false, then video item to be null at first, and then also error to be an empty string. Similarly, we also want to have other states which will be loading, failure, and success. So let's paste them in here, and loading will simply only set is loading to be true. Failure will obtain an error and pass it into the error field, and success will obtain a video item and will pass it obviously to video item field. But we have a bit of a problem, because from the UI we will want to know which kind of state we are dealing with, which kind of state was emitted from the block previously as we are building the UI. So we need to have a way to know whether the current state is initial or whether it is successful. so success. And with the current approach, we need to add getters just like we did inside search state.dart. So is initial and is successful. And for this reason, it may be a better approach to just use the classes as it was previously set up before I overrode this. So just use the classes as the Visual Studio Code plugin generates the code, so that you would have a different class for every state. So we would have initial detail state class, loading detail state class, failure detail state class, and then you would be simply able to check whether the state is of an instance of that particular type. Now we cannot do that because we have only one type called DetailState. So let's add those getters for is initial and is successful. But because we are adding some business logic code, basically, because we need to somehow differentiate between initial and successful. So let's add a test first over to UI detail. So let's actually create a new folder under UI test, so detail. And I'm just going to move detail state test here and go through it. So we have detail state test right over here. Let's remove the now non-functional imports and let's import it ourselves. So we need to import detail state from detail.dart, for example, or no, just detailstate.dart will be enough. And also let's import YouTube video response.dart. And now we have to test that is initial getter will return true only for initial state, and is successful will return true only for success state, which makes sense, just like it made sense over in the search state. So now let's go over to DetailState.dart and let's add those two getters which we need. We are going to add them directly below these. So we're going to add custom getters bool get is initial, and is initial is true if it is not loading. Then also, so and video item is null, and also if error is empty string, because that's how it's set up in the initial factory. So now we also want to have another thing here, which will be bool get is successful, which will return not is loading, and video item doesn't equal null, and also error is equal to empty string. So now we have this test set up. We also have a problem in detail BLoC.dart. Yeah, because we do not have initial detail state. So let's just change that to say detail state dot initial. Now we are good to go in the block. We do not have any errors anymore. And this detail state test doesn't have any errors anymore too, because we have these custom getters already. So let's run the tests and see if it passes. It should. So let's take a look. We are interested in detail state test, and surely detail state test passes just fine. So now we can close detail state test. We can close detail.dart, and let's move over to detail BLoC and let's do something with it. Detail BLoC will need to take in the YouTube repository. So let's add that field over here, YouTube repository. So will be called only repository. And let's import YouTube repository over to the BLoC file. And in the constructor, we are going to set up this .repository as usual. Then we also want to have a method, a function for dispatching the show detail event. So void show detail or on show detail. And we want to obtain string ID here. We're gonna make it optional so that we can use named parameters, but we are actually gonna make this required because there is no point in showing detail if we do not have ID, right? So let's import meta.dart, and then inside this function we are simply going to dispatch. So dispatch event is called show detail. So just show detail, which gets a builder, and on this builder we want to set ID to be equal to ID, and now something's wrong. Argument show detail cannot be assigned to the parameter type detail event. Alright, that's true, because we need to go over to detail event and make this show detail extend detail event. So now that we have that, we shouldn't have any errors in Detail BLoC.dart. So now we should move over to map event to state and return certain states based on the current state of things, right? That's why it's called state. But before we do that, we need to create a test for the block, because we are doing quasi-test driven development where I only paste the tests over to the project and not write them normally, but it doesn't matter. We still write or kind of paste tests before the actual code is written. And as always, obviously, you can get the code from the link in the video description, which is gonna take you to resocoder.com. But now let's move over the DetailState, or actually Detail BLoC test.dart over to UI detail over in the test root folder. And this Detail BLoC test also has some no longer functional imports, so let's remove them and let's import detail.dart. Let's import video item, or actually model detail.dart, and fetch video info. Why is that not working? It's probably because we also need to import YouTube repository. That's true. And now we should not have any errors. So let's take a look at what this block will do. So we have only one event, show detail, and whenever show detail is passed into the event, we are emitting loading and success for valid video ID. Then we emit loading and failure when the repository throws a YouTube video error. We also emit loading and failure when the repository throws a no such video exception. That's also correct. So now let's go over to Detail BLoC.dart and let's implement this functionality, which is described in the tests. So inside map event to state, which is an async generator function, we will want to first check if event is show detail. And if it is, and not that it can be something else, because we after all have only one class which extends detail event, which is itself abstract, so we cannot just have detail event as it is. But either way, we are going to add this if statement over to the start of the map event to state function, because we are always doing that. We are always checking for the type of the event. So if it is show detail, we want to yield, and we are gonna yield DetailState.loading. So once we are showing the loading indicator, because we are emitting loading, we want to try to get the item, video item, from the repository. So final video item is equal to await, because it's asynchronous, repository dot fetch video info, and we are gonna pass in the ID from event dot ID. And then once we have video item fetched, we can yield, and we're gonna yield again detail state dot success and pass in the video item. If an exception occurs, so on YouTube video error, we want to catch the exception and yield DetailState.failure and pass in the exception.message And let's also import YouTube video error. And note code actions are available, so we need to import it ourselves again. This YouTube video error should be present over in model video, so import model vid. What is up? So we need to probably write the whole package colon, then YouTube search tutorial, then detail, or actually model. No, what's up? Like, where are we? Oh, right, data. Yeah, I do not know the project structure, so data / model / detail / model detail.dart, and now we have this YouTube video error all successfully imported. And then also on no such video exception. So let's do that. Catch. Again, we are going to call it E, and we are going to yield DetailState .failure, and again pass E.message as the failure message. So now that we have this BLoC production code written, we have an error here. Yeah, we do not have a semicolon, we're missing it, so let's add that. And now let's save everything and let's run even the BLoC test. So again, run the tests with the keyboard shortcut, or you can also go to the debugging tab and select tests as always. And now we can see that search, or actually Detail BLoC test, has run successfully. So initial state is correct and every single test is also correct. So that's cool. And in the next part, we are gonna use this Detail BLoC in the UI, which will be really awesome looking. It will have that scrollable image at the top, which will display the thumbnail, and it will also display the video tags and the full description and all of that. So if you don't want to miss that next part, definitely subscribe to this channel and also hit the bell button so that you become a part of the notification squad and never miss another upload which I upload on this channel. If this video helped you, give it a like and also share it with others. Leave a comment if you have anything to say, any questions or suggestions. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, and see you in the next video.